There he is. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. Oh, yeah. It's a way to start right there, number one. What's going on, guys? Derek Hudnall here, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, and I want to share with you guys a really important tool for fishing in the fall. Here we are, we're finally starting to get some cold fronts. Everybody wants to be on the water, and guys, the fall, fishing in the fall, the weather can be great, but the fishing can be humbling at times, and you got to show them fish something a little bit different. And if you guys know me, I love a weightless wacky worm, and especially here in South Louisiana, we have a lot of cypress trees. Guys, the cypress tree is one of the best places or the best ecosystems for a bass to live on, not just because of the tree itself, but underneath the water is the part that you cannot see, and that's why a lot of bass this time of the year really hold to those trees like magnets. They have very extensive root systems underneath it. They can have little cavities, and and those of you who fish cypress trees, you know a lot of times, even in a big maze of cypress trees, fish live around some of the same trees, and it's really kind of impossible to see which trees hold fish most of the year until you see that underwater cavity of it. So guys, in the fall, post frontal, you have a lot of those days in the fall. So I am going to target high, bright, sunny skies and something that's really going to be very subtle. Have a really good presentation. You're not going to spook these fish, and I can kind of target the shade areas. There's not many baits that you can get a bait underneath and be very accurate when you're trying to get, in these really tight spots and underneath limbs. And guys, a weightless wacky worm, this Missile Baits 48, is something that you have to have in your arsenal, especially when you're fishing around cypress trees. And there's a couple of really key parts to this setup, from rod to reel to line to hook, all the way to this Missile Baits 48, that is very, very key. And I want to start with the bait. If most of you have seen Missile Baits 48 right here. There's a reason it's called a 48. It's because it's 4.8 inches long, guys. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter than your typical 5-inch stick bait. But if you notice, either side of this bait is a little bit fatter than the middle. What does that do? That enhances the wobble as it falls. So that, number one, I love this Missile Baits 48. I have caught some absolute giants on this bait in the past 3 or 4 years, and it is something that is always in my tackle box year round. The second part is the hook, guys. This right here, G-Finesse Gamakatsu Stinger hook with titanium weed guards. Guys, be very careful with your hook if you're going to throw it with a weed guard, and especially around cypress trees, I need this weed guard. You want to make sure the weed guard is not stiff, not too stiff to where it's not impeding the hook set into the fish, but also stiff enough to make sure you don't stay hung up. These are titanium weed guards. They're very limber, and they do not bend. They go right back into place immediately afterwards. Number 2, size 2 Gamakatsu Stinger hook is an absolute necessity on this setup. Now we're going to go to the line. This is a line watching deal. You see a lot of high vis green when it comes to anybody who's throwing spinning tackle, but especially with this wacky worm, guys, because it is a line watching deal. You can watch that high vis line, and as it slowly sinks down, when a fish grabs it, your line's going to jump and he's going to know it there. I pair this with 10-pound fluorocarbon. I put about a 10 to 12-pound, 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on this to give it that invisibilities. And guys, 10-pound fluorocarbon is a lot stronger than people think. And then all the way down to the rod, guys, St. Croix Legend Xtreme. Guys, 7.3 MLXF is the way to go with this. This is the epitome of sensitivity with this Legend Xtreme in your hand, guys. But guys, weightless wacky worm, and then all the way down to actually rigging it. A lot of guys like to rig it straight through the worm. I like to rig it lengthwise. The size of it, the reason being is because a lot of times when you throw a wacky worm, I'll let you guys know what I'm talking about, and when you reel it in, more part of the worm is laying on the hook like this. That's going to cause you to lose fish. If you rig it like this, this bait does not come around to the hook like you would if you would rig it normally, like you normally would, or with an O-ring as well. This is the way I like to do it. I promise you guys, the weightless wacky worm is going to put more fish in your boat in the fall, not just cypress trees, but any type of cover. Patience is the key, guys. Make sure you have something different, and you give them something really slow in their face in the fall time with that, that can be subtle and something that they can look at a little bit longer. And I promise you guys, this is going to put more fish in your boat.